All right, guys, it is fairy tale time today, and I'm glad you're with me. So we're going to talk about the fairy tale of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm going to give you a quick refresher course. I'll give you the Baron's Cliff Notes, sort of an elevator pitch instead of the full story. So, young girl, Goldilocks, is wandering through the woods when she comes upon a cabin that is empty. This cabin is the home of the three bears who, as chance would have it, are also out walking. So Goldilocks decides that B&E seems like a good idea. That would be breaking and entering, for those of you not following, and goes into the cabin. Well, on the counter, there are 3 bowls of porridge. For those of you who don't know what porridge is, ask one of your British friends. Anywho, she tries the first bowl. It's too hot. Tries the second bowl. Too cold. Third bowl is just right. It's perfect. Nice, right in the middle. So Goldilocks, instead of, taking her free meal and going about her day, she decides to hang around, and she sees some chairs. Well, one that's obviously too small, but maybe not obviously to Goldilocks, she sits in and breaks. So now having had a free meal, broken a chair, and kind of looted the bear's house, she's tired and she needs a nap, so she goes into a bedroom. Well, the first bed is too hard. The second bedroom has a bed that's way too soft. Third bedroom, you guessed it, guys, the bed is just right. And that sort of leads us into the next part of our story. If you're wondering, the bears did come home. Goldilocks was startled awake, in which point she ran off into the woods, never to be heard of again. Not really sure the point of that fairy tale. I never really caught the message of that. Maybe I was too little. Don't know. Doesn't matter. Here we go. So, guys, in today's society, I say modern, Western, sort of industrialized society, masculinity is only approved or accepted if it is, yes, just right. In that middle ground. Can't be too hard. We don't want our men too soft. We want them just right. I'm strong, but they can't be intimidating. We want our men to be assertive, but certainly not too dominant, and confident, but don't be threatening. Don't trigger people or don't make them feel uncomfortable. It's almost as if somebody's created a rule book that men must abide by and follow the rules of masculinity according to that rule book. And if you do step outside that rule book and you break the rules, you may get sent to HR if it's at an office setting. You may be canceled if it's social media. But one thing you'll almost certainly get labeled as, yep, guys, toxic. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves a lot of men today very, very confused, and rightfully so. They hear these constant sort of mantras of man up, or my favorite, absolute favorite here is, be a real man. Not sure exactly what that means, but they're told how to be masculine. Like they don't have sort of an intrinsic or an idea of what masculinity is. So they're told by people how to be masculine. Ironically, many times that is a woman. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the world we live in today. And the only way that this makes sense is by making everyone else comfortable. We have to find that just right form of masculinity, the Goldilocks masculinity, if you will. What that does, that creates tension. Men don't know what to do. They don't know which way is up. They don't know whether to go shit or go sailing. So they sort of self-edit themselves. They watch what they say. They walk on eggshells. They're worried constantly. It creates anxiety. And what does that do? That just creates weaker men. It kills their presence. It kills their confidence. They don't know which way is up. So, guys, my video here isn't to completely shit on women or shit on men. It's here to sort of bring this to the forefront, and you guys can make your own conclusions from this. Like I said, I'm sort of the messenger here. I'm not going to yell, chest thump, let my ego go unchecked, or hubris run amok. The fact is that masculinity in today's society is policed. There is a sort of masculinity Gestapo, and that's by other people. Generally not by other men. As I said earlier, this sort of what can be just right masculinity is generally not told to men by women. And here's the worst part, guys. As if we, just right. Well, those standards of what is just right shift, depend on who's watching, where you're at, who's your audience, And you have to sort of figure that out on the go. There's not sort of a core template of masculinity rules that apply, no matter where you are. This sort of shifts on depending who's watching. So, conclusion to this part is you are allowed to be masculine as long as it doesn't expose somebody else's insecurity. And therein lies the trap. As Admiral Akbar said on Star Wars 1, I believe it is, it's a trap. Anyways, guys, so now we go on to the just right illusion. So, the illusion is sort of an unspoken expectation. Men are allowed to lead, but only if they ask permission, which, yes, you guessed it, guys, isn't really leading at all. Men can compete, but don't win too hard. Don't crush your competition. Be gentle. Win by just enough to make the other team feel good about themselves. The fact is, in participation trophy society, and there are no losers, we can compete, but just keep that competition tempered, guys. Pull back the reins a little bit. And you're allowed to be disciplined, of course, but don't make others feel bad about your discipline. Don't make them feel lazy. Don't make them feel that they weren't, they didn't make the sacrifices. Don't make them feel bad about your success. Don't do that, guys. It's a terrible thing to do. Basically, every day you're walking a tightrope and you don't know which way the wind's blowing. It's tough to stay on that rope. So, you're in a room. It could be a party, it could be a boardroom. Doesn't really matter where. And you're decisive. Well, you could be too aggressive, and people would say the way you said something made them feel bad. It's not what you said, guys. It's how you said it. So, be cognizant of that. When you speak directly, be careful. You're insensitive. This goes back to, it's not what you said, guys. It's how you said it. You have to tell somebody how to feel when you say it. You can't just give them the facts. It can't be empirical data. You've got to tell them to also how they should feel about it. So be careful there. Obviously, self-improvement and self-development is a big deal. My channel sort of hits on a lot of that. So if you do that, you're trying too hard. You're coping. You are overcompensated. And chances are when you do this stuff, when you make yourself better, you stand out from the crowd, you, of course, have, little dick energy. That's a new one for me. I hadn't really heard that. I think I got out of the fray, sort of the game, kind of before that came in. I don't even know how I'd reply to that one. Little dick energy. Anyways, guys, the message underneath is this. Stay strong, but don't create any contrast. Don't make yourself stand out. Just be strong, but, be quiet and stay behind the scenes, because that contrast is going to make others uncomfortable. Your unpredictability is going to make them a bit squeamish. And we don't want to do that, guys. We want to find that just right middle ground for our masculinity. So I hit on it a little bit ago, but I got to hit it on a little bit more, the toxic label. So again, I'm 52. For those of you not aware yet, I had never heard of anything such as toxic masculinity until probably the last few years. And I've been in this sort of space, or at least aware of it, for a good 10, 12, 15 years. So, and this toxic now, it gets tossed around in like every sentence. If you sneezed and you didn't say, God bless you, you're fucking toxic. Who knows? There are times, guys, when masculinity does go, or I don't know what you want to call it, machismo does go overboard. And I think we know these. I don't think I have to point them out. There are occasions where, it is crude or over-the-top masculinity. Whether it's toxic or not, I don't know. That's a debate for another day. But most of the time, it is just someone else's discomfort disguised as sort of morality. They get on their high horse. Or more likely, they run anything else to say, and they start using ad hominem attacks. That's where you get the toxic masculinity, the aforementioned little dick energy, so on and so forth. So guys, if you are too driven, too disciplined, or too unwilling to bend, you hold yourself to standards and you do not cave on those standards, well, then you're the problem. You are toxic. What do they really want, though, guys? Well, they want a lion. Yeah, they want the lion. But they want that declawed lion. They want the sedated lion. They want that predictable lion. Where do you find that lion? Well, that lion's generally in the zoo, inside of a cage. I'll let you draw your parallels, guys. They want you to have strength without any real power or authority. They want you to have masculinity, but without any edge to it. And that's not quite how it works, guys. So we get into this sort of trap here. If your masculinity doesn't affirm someone else's worldview or their political ideology, it gets rejected, ridiculed, or mocked. And again, there's sort of these social shaming. I mentioned those: be a real man, man up, what I say, and then get mocked, little dick energy, all these things. Oh, short king, whatever it is, they will sort of mock it. But again, let's be honest here, guys. Not everybody hates masculinity, but they hate being reminded what they lack. And it's weird because when men can't or don't act masculine, women will take up that slack. And then you have sort of the feminists, or a lot of women acting like men. Now we could get into the sort of the alpha male and alpha female, and that's probably a topic I'll hit on another day. But no man is attracted to a woman that acts like a man. And conversely, very, very few women would be attracted to a man that acts like a woman. We kind of have these biological rules. Yes, guys, there are outliers. And what am I going to say? I say in every video, don't be binary. Think in the grays. Think in the sort of middle ground there, guys. Or there's some nuance to it, I guess I should say. So what happens now is masculinity gets redefined by everybody to what it means to them, their truth. They soften it, they intellectualize it, and they sort of sanitize it. I don't know what that means, guys. And if you don't conform to that, you are sort of outdated. You're a man of the past, you're a caveman, or you're simply unrefined, or the aforementioned toxic. You become problematic and you are simply too much. And we can't have that, guys. So here's the reality. You don't tailor your character to somebody else's insecurity. You have to sort of build it. You have to own it, and you have to refine that. And that has to be on your terms, not somebody else's. All right, so guys, real masculinity isn't screaming, yelling, loud, boisterous. It doesn't have to be. It most certainly is not reactive, and there's no insecurity in it. Masculine men, truly masculine men, are confident in who they are. They don't have to tell anybody. They don't have to tell anybody that they're an alpha male. Anybody who truly is, and again, that's a placeholder term, guys. Don't get too deep on that. But if somebody is sort of a leader of the pack, if you will, they don't announce that. People already know it. Real masculinity is sort of grounded. It's controlled, and it's self-directed. You know who you are, and you don't have to apologize for that. You don't have to shrink to make other people feel better about themselves or feel sort of taller, if you will. And you don't dull your edge so someone doesn't feel cut down by comparison. Guys, we're in the social media age here, and that's all it is. Comparison truly is the thief of joy. But you don't have to bring yourself down to a lower level to make other people feel good about themselves. That's not your problem. Be yourself. All right, guys, let me get toward the end here. So one of the things is, and I'm stealing this from another creative sort of, but masculinity is funny, is what it is. There are things, masculine traits. People love the masculine guy that, the police officer that's, steps in front of a bullet to save somebody. The fireman who runs into a burning building. The Coast Guard people that dive into frigid waters and save people. That masculinity is fine. In fact, we love that masculinity. Guys that, got off the landing crafts at Omaha Beach. That masculinity is fine. But when guys jump off cliffs, cliff diving, or, boys compete in sports and act a little boisterous, well, that's not as accepted. Like I said, we like to pick and choose where our masculinity we like. We want it to be just right. So We need to stop chasing the just right. I know I don't. And then trying to fit in some, sort of BS societal narrative of what masculinity is. We're never going to win that game because it's a game that doesn't have winners. Why? Because the porridge temperature will keep changing. It's only just right to some people at certain times. Again, draw your own analogies there, guys. So instead, what can we do? Be disciplined and don't apologize for it, guys. Be strong. And that is mentally and physically strong, guys. I think I won't go delve too deeply in these points because I'm trying to wrap the video up. Be self-controlled. Be tempered, guys. Don't be reactionary. Don't fly off on your emotions. You can have emotions, but don't let them lead your decision making. Be competent, guys. I've said this before. Competent leads to confidence. Only goes in that order. When you are competent at things, you will grow your confidence. And then, guys, here's the thing. Be a fucking weapon. Weapon in a way that's sort of contained. And I mean that when I say weapon, maybe a Swiss Army knife. I don't know what the way it is, but you need to be well-rounded, guys, and adapt to the situation. Be the guy that can, fight in a war, but also take care of his kids. And if that, you doing that makes people uncomfortable, well, then you're definitely on the right track. So just keep going. When your masculinity, it's probably good, especially in the West, if it starts making people uncomfortable, you're probably, like I said, you're on the right path. So just keep going. And that's, guys, that's just information. It's not a set of instructions. All right. Do me a favor, guys. Appreciate you sticking out to the end here. As usual, like, subscribe, and do me a favor, drop some comments. And I want to know, where you're at, whether you're a married guy, single guys, where you're at in your age, and how masculinity is in your life, how people are sort of defining it. I love to know that. Guys, if another thing here is YouTube's telling me that you need to watch this video next. All right. Appreciate you guys. See you in the next one.